I'll kick off. Hi everybody, it's a real privilege to be here speaking with you all today. It's a glorious sunny day. I hope this will be enjoyable, not too taxing, get some of that energy I've been bottling for the last week as I've been trying to get this prepared out and shared and out into the sunlight. So what I wanted to say first off is that I'd like to dedicate this presentation to the Daemon who are here with us in force. I'd like to dedicate it to you. I'd like to dedicate it to Wes, who's been here with me today. And also, this is a presentation about love. So I share that with you. The Book of Daemon, what is that? Daemon, diamond, demon. What is a daemon? To take you back in terms of some context of why I wanted to create a virtual space for the individual and their daemon, I was trying to resolve some lifelong conflict I felt that I had. Coming to do this Masters in Canterbury, I actually realised it's a beautiful and energetic synergy. It's not a conflict at all. I really work in two parts as a person, and I either focus on one part in totality or the other. As a 44-year-old, I'm reflecting on what stages of my life have been more artistic, have been sublimated in the ethereal, in art, in the fairies, in the underworld, in creative beauty. And they have been a lot smaller than those parts of my life where I have been working in a very sort of almost utilitarian, grad grind, efficiency, process-oriented, financial. I think Samoa mentioned typical bankers. I was squirming in the chair, working in a bank, and really my life just started to diverge. I couldn't keep synthesis between who I was as a person, both from an internal and external experience, so it became very skewed. And I felt as I matured as an individual, I didn't quite know who I was. Was I this person who absolutely felt metaphysically, just felt in touch and in grasp of as much she could possibly take into her heart and her head? Or was I a perfunctory, somebody out doing stuff, earning money and, living a life? So this is really about a union, and it's about saying that actually opposites and dualism and all those conflicts that we feel are actually together in one beautiful union. And in recognising that union and those facets of myself which are at conflict sometimes, actually something really beautiful can be born. And what I wanted to share in that was one of the ways that I came to recognise this union is through my union with my Daemon. And I wanted to acknowledge that and create a space where both myself and perhaps others who would pick up this book could actually spend time reflexively and think about what their Daemon meant to them. So having said all that as a bit of an introduction, I had no idea what the Book of Daemon was going to be. In true Daemon spirit, it was mercurial, fleeting, ethereal and tricky. So it took me many, many months to actually decide what I was going to do. So what I decided to do in finality about 2 months ago was to take both sides of my interests or skills in some respects and to fuse what is my almost technology-focused background on preparing and delivering stuff, and also my love of poetry and art on the other, and sort of bring them together and almost bring the Daemon to life in some virtual capacity. So I decided my master's many years ago was in change in technology, and as part of that I did some very rudimentary coding. I was an appalling coder. I was dreadful at it. But I decided at the time, why was I drawn to any aspect of technology? And looking back, what I actually felt about technology, although I never really formally taught this, only in hindsight, was that technology was then to me a form of alchemy. It was real magic. How by writing a couple of lines on the screen could I get something to do something? We were taught how this happened, the ones and the zeros, but in a sense, it was magic. And what I wanted to do as part of that is use what I had fallen in love with and that magic to bring the Daemon into this world. So that leads me then to what is the Book of Daemon? And my aspiration is that this would be an application that would be available to those who are interested in looking at it and exploring their daemon. And essentially, and I will talk through what it is and also what I will present to you today. The daemon have been particularly tricky this week. I've gone on a bit of a journey. I've learnt to new coding skills. I have worked with new technology tooling platforms. I have been virtual friends with people I've never met in my life, and I want to thank them as well in order to get a technical application up and running that really brings the daemon to life. So I'll just talk through a little bit of what it is, and then I'll show you the book itself, what's in it, and then I'll play a rudimentary, so I've taken out all of the sort of sexy features to play you end to end what that book might look like. So I'd like to share that with you this afternoon. So I'm going to skip through the first couple of things. I really want to bring the ether technology and me together in some sort of synthesis. The one thing that the daemon is that it brings the divinity and humanity together. And in some respects, I wanted the same synthesis between both dual aspects of my own personal experience. And I also wanted to introduce some cosmological context. Now, I am an extremely rudimentary cosmologist. Doing the work with Monica was such an eye-opener. I was writing to her asking her what was my ascendant, and I had some marvellous readings before, but when you're actually taking all of these through to something meaningful, I'm starting to actually learn, the basic mechanics of some of this in terms of astrology itself. So I wanted to bring the daemon up visually, and I wanted to do this via technology. So that's a bit of background. So what isn't working today, but will be working hopefully when I can return to it, is I wanted to present and build it out of a cosmological view, is really, and it's very actually similar to Monica's one as well, is this view of the planets, and that really as an opening, you would look at all of the planetary systems, and by selecting on them, you would see what the associated sun sign was with that. Part of this was, what aspect of astrology do you focus on? And in terms of exploring that, the work by Dorian Greenbaum in terms of Hellenistic astrology and the daemon looks at Lord of Genitor, it looks at the lots of daemon, it looks at your auspicious planet, finding your personal daemon. But this is just very much inaccessible, because this is where I'm at, view or window to get into your particular book. So the idea behind it is that you would select a planet that you're either interested in or your particular sun sign. So let's say if you're Aquarius, is that right, or Pisces into Neptune, for example, and that would bring up a particular book where the guide is Neptune, and he would take you through that particular book. So there would be 12 books in all. So this is all working, and it links to books. I don't have behind each of these other ones, with the exception of Mercury, who is my own books. But the idea is that there would be a whole suite of books here. So here we go, and here's the shot. And then when you click Mercury, it brings you right through to what's on the next page, which is a storybook. And a storybook does a couple of things. It really just tries to set the context of what the daemon is. And it's very much a Platonic view. And James spoke about intention this morning. And the power of intention is really what the daemon spins on. And as I said at the outset, this is about love. And this daemon, your personal daemon, is here to help you remember your divinity and get those creative capabilities expressed and remembered. And that's the purpose of this particular book. So this goes into play, and I'll just go here. And this is an excerpt from the book, and then I'll go into some of the slides that don't actually play. So it's in 3 parts. One is a very Platonic view of what the daemon is. The second one is how can you access or get to connect with your daemon or reconnect with them. And the last pages then are really images of the daemon itself. So very much just to look at. There's some words opposite it. And it's really just a chance to reflect on your own personal genius. The images in here, some of them for copyright reasons and some for expediency, but most of the images in here are from our house, and they're images that we have around us, so they have very personal meaning. there are a finite number of images in here within the aspect of the daemon. The idea is that I would take those forward and add more. The part about working with all of this, that the technology was such a huge ask in terms of delivering this. The daemon, my daemon, has so many aspects that he wants shown. So they will be fed into this book and into the other Astral Planet books as well. Okay. So if I hit click, I hope this works. So there's music which I had to mute because it sounds like the Smurfs on acid. So a little bit about kind of the seminal Heraclitan, who is the daemon, and then just some reflections on, well, is the daemon good? Is it evil? Is it agnostic? What is it? You know, and to explore some of those, looking back at Plato and the spindle of necessity, and where all of those choices are made. Plato and the daemon, so he sees them very much as mediators between God and men, and he also sees that everyone has their own personal daemon. And then connecting with the daemon, which is when at 3 o'clock this morning this application decided it wasn't going to do any more. So we will go on to the next slide. So some ways to connect with the daemon are in there. This is very much an introductory book. It's about accessibility and it's about inquiry. What is a daemon? You know, do I have a daemon? Is it my guardian angel? Is it that spirit I feel? Is it my mother who visits me every so often? Do I have one at all? So it's very much about just opening up that and recognising one's personal daemon. And then we go into images of daemons. So this is the rest of the book, and I'll play the full thing at the end. So in this particular book, it's guided by Hermes or Mercury, because that's the astrological planet that I chose at the outset. So, and he also is a messenger between the heavens and the earth. And in here, there are just some, you know, facets of the daemon. Again, extremely personal, but if they resonate, or some aspects of this resonate, it's really with a view to your own inquiry with the daemon. So the imagina, the mundus imaginalis, you know, are we imagination of the daemon, or do they imagine us? These sorts of just challenges. The ghost from our future, which was a lovely quote. I can't remember who said it, but they said it really recently. It's almost like these fortuitous beings. Are they us from our future? Is it others? Is it the daemon? But there are ghosts. And pulling that whole idea of pulling back the veil into this particular existence. The daemon of the world soul, and there was tons of poetry you could put on in here. Some of this was actually just about scaling it back and not having it too wordy. Because this will be an app, it won't be word heavy whatsoever. Fish out of water, so this is one of my favourite paintings. This is about the individual feeling like a fish out of water. I've often described coming to this masters as coming home, and that is a very, very real statement. You know, I think everybody feels at times fish out of water, but here is the fish coming to meet us, and in a sense, in this construct, it's completely beautiful. And I think for this in me as well, it's about kinship. And when I spoke about intention earlier, your relationship with the daemon is very much about the intentions you set as your relationship. And I also feel that as people on physical earth working with spiritual guides, with less materiality, I think that there are things that we bring to the table and responsibilities we bring in that relationship, just in the same way as that ethos around intention they bring. The auspicious moment, I'm a lover of Kairos, the opportune moment, you know, grabbing opportunity when it arrives, also remembering how lucky you are, you know, what you've got. I lost this application so many times in the last week and it corrupted, and anytime I could retrieve it, just as a very simple example, I was so grateful for whatever came back. But it's also about just remembering what you've got. And then one of my favourite people, but he's becoming very popular, Nikola Tesla. you know, he's an extraordinary guy, really quirky character, but it's about actually quantum love. And really about looking at the universe as an immaterial, mental and spiritual place. That's what Max Planck said in 1918 when he won the Physics Nobel Award. And it's really about, you know, re-understanding and reshaping our relationship with our personal guide, and then to be continued. So what I'll do is, I think if I go down here, this is rendered very roughly just to show it to you end to end. There's the full castle and everything on it, and all the pixelation is quite crude, but I just had to do it this morning when I came here. So I'll just play it there. And the speeds are a little off, but you get the sense of what it's trying to do. And there would be music that doesn't sound like Smurf. So a part of this as well is that you can stop and look at things. I'd also really like the ability to give this as an app to people where they put in their own images and their own thoughts, like an online scrapbook. But that would be definitely a phase 3.3. I'm on 1.0 just about at the moment. But I mean, this was a whole new world of exploration. And I think one of the things that I think I mentioned in an earlier presentation is that the daemon is known in technology terms as something that is hidden and behind the scenes. So whenever you get a message, and it doesn't happen so much anymore, but 5 or 10 years ago, if you saw any code, or if you do a lot of coding with daemon in it, something's wrong, but somebody's trying to help you in the background. So hopefully there is a marriage here between both facets. So I'm really happy to take any questions or perspectives on any of that.
The other day I was thinking about you, I was reading a book. Actually a book that's highly recommended. So it's about UFOs and metaphysics. And this person is a Sufi. So the point that he's making is that UFOs are jinn, and therefore they are evil. However, for someone like Plato, jinn would be the daemon.
That's correct.
And the thing he's saying, actually, is a bit of a conspiracy theory, but he's very, very skeptical and even hateful of these genes. And he says that somehow he believes technology was built to give gene a body, which is a very strange idea, but it's kind of the idea you're taking on. You just disagree with the place gene had.
Correct. Their representation,
yes,
in a sense.
But the thing that's interesting is that there are some metaphysicians, traditional metaphysicians, that appear to have this idea that technology is daimonic as well, which is quite...
What is demonic?
Technology. Yes,
yeah.
Yes. So it's quite interesting that you got there, but not through the judgmental side of it.
Yeah. And I think, you know, there is validity in that as a perspective, but again I will go back to the intention that drives all of this. And like Mercury, you know, when you explore Mercury, he is one of the patrons of technology, for example, and I just think in terms of bringing this to the fore in terms of some sort of visceral reality, in a way that represents those facets of the daemon that I recognise in thanks and recognition. That's really what this is about. I think in terms of what you see here as well, I mean, the astrological stuff absolutely sunk me for about a month and a half, and I emerged out of it, and it just has that very sort of initial sun view on the world. But when you read about the work of Porphyry, less so of Plotinus, and Iamblichus wasn't, he was fine with the whole cosmos, but Porphyry in particular wanted you to find, or one to find one's personal daemon. And I spent weeks, and I didn't consult with anybody because I felt it was like a very personal initiation into astrology, but and there's so many versions of how you do this, so I couldn't do any of that justice here. But I mean, that is somewhere in terms of finding or locating that personal daemon is something I'd really like to deepen in here.
Do you have the moon there?
Yes, I added the moon. Okay. Yeah.
And what happens if I click on Earth?
Nothing.
Okay.
Nothing for now. Well, nothing on this slide. So there's the moon, and when you click the moon, I don't have the photograph up, but it works in the application. Yeah.
So each book is full of images to do with that particular planet.
Yeah. So each god of each of the sun signs with that planet is your guide. So there's a very different. So it'll take, because it was just, that was a natural place for me to go because I'm Gemini, into Mercury, and he's also, the winged god between both. It was just a lovely synchronicity. But yeah, each of these, and who knows, maybe more.
So it's a way of introducing people both to astrology and to a sort of living presence connected with their sun sign.
Correct.
Yeah.
I think there's also something amazing to do. I'm very obsessed with this idea of early extreme existence, of traveling through the planets. You get into the moon, and so. I mean, sometimes, although you're a Gemini, you're the planet that represents your daemon, maybe another one, according even to Prophery's technique.
Absolutely.
And I was just thinking that maybe an interesting way to go around that would be for people to have to meet every daemon. So they get into through the moon.
That's right.
And then after they finish the moon, they can go on to Mercury.
That's exactly right, Simon, because we're influenced by the planets in every aspect, and we're also drawn viscerally to certain planets at certain times. So it's those lenses as well.
Wow, So how will people access this? It'll just be like a kind of app on their phone or computer or something?
Yeah, so at the moment, to actually render or publish this, so the book you've just seen that I played end to end, that was taking 270 hours when I hit the publish button yesterday. So I went into meltdown at home, and Wes kindly supported me. And we found a way as well to actually present it in both ways, so I'm delighted with that. So I am on a completely pioneering journey technologically on this, and obviously I will get more professional support, but this is very much a personal endeavour and a bit of a pilgrimage. So yes, once you're on any of these tools, you can publish to any format whatsoever. You can create an app, you can publish onto YouTube. It could be a whole sequence of just YouTubing it and showing various images and talking through this. So whatever medium electronically you want, the tools are fine. They have their limitations and quirks. And actually, one of the interesting things when this wasn't working yesterday, Wes and I were looking up, publishing quickly. This rudimentary stuff on the internet. I had never published a single thing in the Adobe suite ever, which was a little bit naive, but I thought I'd left myself loads of time because you're told how easy it is to do this. But the reason why I'm explaining all this is that there was YouTube, and the guy goes into it, he goes, but there are secret menu files within this application that will publish your files more quickly. And the tab, you had to go and you had to hold shift and press this, and next thing, only if you did this sequence, this tab came up called secret. I can send you the link. I couldn't believe it. And again, that whole demonic secret, that revealing, I just thought that was extraordinary.
Behind it.
Behind it only goes if you hold these 3 buttons in this sequence, like your fingers are like this, but it's even though it's professional kit, it's developed by developer hacks, so they put in all these various routes, but they know their own code. So that was another message, I think. So yes, I hope to finish the book and get it published on that one, and then start to deepen, as I deepen my own experience with astrology, work through each of those compendia.
Wow.
Okay, great. Well, amazing.